I, 28F, am getting married to Adam, 29M, in 2 months. Growing up, our family dynamic was always centered around my youngest brother Tommy, 24M. Being the baby of the family with 3 older siblings, Dylan, 32M, Chris, 30M, and me, Tommy always got away with everything. Our parents, especially Mom, would bend over backwards to keep him happy. Dylan was always the responsible one, following Dad's footsteps into the family business. Chris was the athletic star, getting a full scholarship to college. I was the middle child who worked hard but never quite got the same attention. Tommy, though, was different. He struggled academically, couldn't hold down jobs, but Mom always made excuses for him. She'd say he was finding his path while pressuring the rest of us to help him financially. This dynamic continued into our adult lives. When Dylan got married, Tommy threw a fit about not being best man, despite barely knowing Dylan's wife. When Chris bought his first house, Tommy expected to move in rent-free because that's what family does. When I got my promotion last year, Tommy complained that my company never gave him an interview, even though he wasn't qualified. Enter Rachel, 23F. She came into our lives 2 years ago when she started dating Adam's brother Mark, 27M. I didn't know her well then, but noticed some red flags. She'd constantly post about her perfect relationship on social media while Mark seemed increasingly unhappy. Mark eventually discovered she was seeing multiple guys behind his back and ended things. A few months later, she somehow ended up at Tommy's friend's party. Within weeks, they were dating. Tommy didn't know about her history with Mark. Mark wanted to avoid drama and asked us not to mention it. We agreed, thinking it wouldn't last. But it got worse. 3 months ago, Mark showed me and Adam some disturbing messages from Rachel. She'd been texting him late at night, saying she missed him and wanted to explain everything. Some messages suggested meeting secretly. Mark ignored them initially but came to us when she started sending revealing photos. I was torn about telling Tommy. Our family has a history of shooting the messenger. When I told Dylan his ex was cheating years ago, I was blamed for ruining his relationship. But I couldn't have Rachel at my wedding knowing she might try something with Mark. So I sent out wedding invitations without a +1 for Tommy. My reasoning was solid, it's a small, intimate ceremony. But of course, Tommy exploded. He called Mom crying about being singled out since Dylan and Chris could bring their wives. Mom immediately called me, demanding an explanation. I tried explaining it was about keeping things small, but Tommy wouldn't accept it. He started posting passive-aggressive comments on all my wedding-related social media posts. His friends, who don't know the whole story, joined in calling me a bridezilla. The situation reached a breaking point last week when Tommy showed up at my house unannounced, with Mom. They ambushed me with accusations of favoritism and unfairness. Tommy threatened to boycott the wedding and tell everyone what kind of sister I really am. Finally, I snapped and told him everything about Rachel's messages to Mark. I showed them the screenshots Mark had sent me. Instead of listening, Tommy accused me of photoshopping the messages out of jealousy. Mom sided with him, saying I was trying to ruin his one good relationship because I was always jealous of his happiness. Now the entire family is involved. Dylan and Chris, without even seeing the evidence, are saying I should stop creating drama. Extended family members are messaging me about family unity and forgiveness. Dad stays quiet as usual, not wanting to upset Mom. Adam and Mark fully support my decision. Adam's family, who know Rachel's history with Mark, understand completely. But my family is painting me as the villain who's trying to destroy Tommy's happiness. I won't back down on this. My wedding day shouldn't include someone who might try to seduce one of the groomsmen. Am I really wrong for wanting to protect both my wedding and my future brother-in-law? Update 1. 3 weeks have passed since my last post, and everything has become significantly worse. To understand the current situation better, I need to explain some past family dynamics that are now affecting everything. Growing up, any conflict in our family was always resolved by giving in to Tommy. When he crashed Dylan's car at 16, our parents made Dylan forgive him without any consequences. When he used Chris's credit card for online gambling at 19, Mom paid off the debt and insisted Chris drop the matter. When he borrowed my laptop and sold it for quick cash at 21, I was told to be understanding because he was going through a phase. This pattern made Tommy believe he could get away with anything. Rachel seems to have picked up on this dynamic perfectly. After my last post, she launched a full attack. She somehow got my personal number, I suspect Mom gave it to her, and started a harassment campaign. At first, it was just emotional messages about how I was breaking Tommy's heart and destroying their love. When I didn't respond, the messages turned threatening. She claimed she had dirt on Adam and would expose him at the wedding. She even hinted at having inappropriate photos, though Adam has never been involved with her. The situation got more complicated when Mark's ex-girlfriend Lily, 24F, came forward. She had dated Mark right before Rachel, and shared disturbing information. Rachel had apparently caused problems in several relationships before Mark, always playing the victim when caught. Lily had screenshots of Rachel trying to reconnect with Mark while dating Lily's brother. When I tried showing this new evidence to my family, things got even messier. Mom organized a family meeting at their house. I arrived to find not just our immediate family, but also aunts, uncles, and even our old neighbor Mrs. Peterson, 68F, who apparently always saw Tommy as a son. The meeting was ambush. Rachel arrived with Tommy, wearing a conservative dress, completely different from her usual style, and carrying a photo album. She had printed out every family photo she could find on social media, creating a story about how much our family meant to her. She even included photos from before she knew us, which she'd edited herself into. Mom, who had clearly helped plan this, gave a speech about family acceptance and growing up. She brought up every mistake Dylan, Chris, and I had ever made, most of which were minor compared to Tommy's actions, saying the family had forgiven us. The most manipulative part was when Rachel started showing evidence that Mark had been pursuing her. She had screenshots of conversations, but they were clearly edited, the dates didn't match up, and some texts used iPhone bubbles while Mark has always had an Android. When I pointed this out, Tommy accused me of always finding faults in his life. He brought up childhood incidents, times he felt I didn't support him enough or chose my friends over him. Most of these incidents were completely twisted versions of reality. After 3 hours of this emotional manipulation, my parents delivered their ultimatum: either include Rachel in the wedding or they wouldn't attend. They even suggested I make her a bridesmaid to heal the family rift. That was the last straw. Adam, who had been quietly supportive throughout this mess, suggested we completely change our plans. We're now looking at destination wedding venues in Bali. His parents not only support this decision but offered to help with the costs. The family's reaction to our potential venue change has been explosive. Tommy posted a TikTok about toxic sisters that went viral in our small town. Mom's Bridge Club ladies are calling me selfish. Even my childhood best friend Lisa, 28F, who was supposed to be a bridesmaid, suggested I was being too harsh. The only unexpected support came from Mark's new girlfriend Katie, 26F, who reached out to share her own experience with Rachel from their university days. Apparently, Rachel's pattern of behavior goes back years. Right now, we're seriously considering the Bali option. At least then we can celebrate our love without all this manufactured drama. Update 2: the last 2 months have been a whirlwind of events. Let me start by explaining why we finally canceled our local wedding plans entirely. Our venue called to inform us that Tommy had contacted them, claiming to be my wedding planner, trying to add Rachel to all the guest lists and seating arrangements. The venue owner only called to verify because Tommy's email address looked suspicious. This wasn't the first time Tommy had tried to manipulate situations behind my back. In college, he once called my professor pretending to be my doctor, trying to get an extension on my behalf because he needed help with his own assignments. Back then, Mom defended him saying he was just being helpful. But the real turning point came at Dylan's son's first birthday party. Rachel showed up uninvited, got drunk, and made a scene. She cornered Mark near the bathroom, tried to kiss him, and when he pushed her away, she fell dramatically. Several guests witnessed this, including Tommy's childhood best friend Ben, 24M. Instead of finally seeing Rachel's true colors, Tommy created an elaborate story about Mark harassing Rachel throughout the party. He claimed Mark had been sending her suggestive signals all evening and tried to take advantage of her vulnerable state. When Ben tried to tell Tommy what he actually saw, Tommy accused him of being manipulated by my lies. The next day, Tommy showed up at Mark's workplace, an elementary school where Mark teaches 4th grade. He started yelling about Mark being a predator in front of parents dropping off their kids. The school had to call security, and Mark nearly lost his job. The only thing that saved his position was the school's security footage showing Tommy's unhinged behavior. You'd think this would be the wake-up call my family needed. Instead, Mom blamed Mark for provoking Tommy by attending the birthday party. She even suggested Mark should find a new job for everyone's peace of mind. Dylan and Chris, despite their wives telling them Tommy was out of line, sided with Mom as usual. The situation escalated when Rachel started telling people she was pregnant. She posted a vague photo of a positive pregnancy test on Instagram with the caption, "Some people will never understand true love and commitment." My mom immediately started planning a baby shower, telling everyone how excited she was to be a grandmother. 2 weeks later, when people started asking about doctor appointments and due dates, Rachel claimed she had a miscarriage and blamed the stress I was causing. She even tagged me in posts about toxic family members causing trauma. Tommy threatened to sue me for emotional distress, though he never actually filed anything. Through all this, we've been planning our Bali wedding. Only 30 guests are invited, mostly Adam's family and our closest friends. My dad, after seeing the security footage from Mark's school, finally took a stand. He's coming to Bali, despite Mom's threats to make his life difficult if he attends. The latest development? Rachel announced their engagement on social media, complete with a ring that looks suspiciously like the one she once posted about Mark giving her. He never did. The post included a long paragraph about overcoming family betrayal and staying strong against those who try to tear true love apart. My dad finally moved out of the family home last week. He couldn't take Mom's constant defense of Tommy and Rachel's behavior anymore. He's staying with his brother until he finds his own place. The wedding is in 3 weeks. We've hired security, just in case Tommy tries something. Mark got a restraining order after the school incident, and Adam's family has completely cut contact with Tommy and Rachel. Final update: it's been 6 months since our Bali wedding, and I need to share the aftermath because the truth finally came out in the most unexpected way. Our wedding was everything we wanted: peaceful, intimate, and drama-free. The 30 guests who attended were genuinely happy for us, and my dad walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. While we were enjoying our honeymoon, the real drama exploded back home. Remember Ben, Tommy's childhood best friend? He had been quietly gathering evidence of Rachel's deceptions for months. He finally had enough when Rachel tried to seduce him, recording the entire interaction on his phone. Ben didn't just catch Rachel's advances, he got her admitting to faking the pregnancy, manipulating Tommy against his family, and still being involved with multiple men. He sent the recording to Tommy, along with screenshots of Rachel's dating app profiles and evidence of her meeting men while Tommy was at work. Tommy's reaction? He initially tried to claim the voice recording was fake. He posted about fake friends and jealous people trying to ruin his happiness. But then Rachel made a crucial mistake. She got drunk at a local bar and started bragging to strangers about how she had the perfect fool wrapped around her finger. One of those strangers happened to be Chris's wife's cousin. She recorded Rachel's drunken confessions and sent them to our family group chat. Rachel couldn't deny it this time. It was clearly her voice, her face, describing in detail how she manipulated Tommy and enjoyed causing drama in our family. Tommy finally had to face reality when he went to surprise Rachel at her workplace for lunch and found her car in a hotel parking lot. Her phone's location sharing was on, something he had insisted on after the Mark incident, showing she was in room 204. That's where he found her with Dylan's best friend Rob. The aftermath wasn't pretty. Tommy had a complete meltdown at the hotel. Security was called, and the whole incident made our local Facebook community group. Mom tried to blame Rachel's behavior on me again, claiming my rejection of her pushed her into another man's arms. Dad, who's now permanently moved out and is dating a lovely woman from his church group, finally told Mom she needed help. He pointed out how her constant enabling of Tommy destroyed our family relationships. Mom responded by telling the entire extended family that Dad left her for another woman, conveniently leaving out all the context. Dylan and Chris finally apologized to me, though it felt more about saving face than genuine remorse. They sent generic "sorry you were right" text messages but still maintain I could have handled things better. Tommy moved back home with Mom, who's now telling everyone he's healing from the trauma of betrayal. Rachel moved in with Rob but still posts cryptic messages about narcissistic families and escaping toxic relationships. Mark is engaged to Katie now, and they're expecting their first child. Adam and I are settling into our new home in another state, far from the family drama. We're expecting twins, but we're only telling Dad and Adam's family for now. I've learned that sometimes the truth comes out in its own time, but it doesn't always bring the closure you expect. While I'm glad my brothers finally saw Rachel's true colors, the damage to our family relationships might be permanent. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Mom still sends occasional messages about forgiving and forgetting, but I found peace in my new life with Adam, far away from the chaos of my childhood family.